Very good evening. You're watching the India Development Debate. I'm Tamanna Inamdar. As India prepares to welcome Donald Trump on his first visit as US President, expectations of a trade deal have been lowered. The Ministry of External Affairs, in a briefing today, made it clear that there was no rush on India's part to strike a trade deal during the 36-hour visit that will span Delhi, Agra and Ahmedabad. Now, this is a significant statement ahead of the trip, considering the biggest sore point between India and the US over the last few years have been on tariffs. There will be, though, 5 MOUs signed and a 24 naval helicopter deal in the works. But the big focus seems to be on giving Donald Trump a welcome he won't forget, with the promised 7 million strong crowd set to greet him as he lands in Ahmedabad. At an estimated cost of about 100 crore rupees to India for the Trump visit, what do we really get out of the trip? To speak on this, I'm joined today by Vishnu Prakash, a former ambassador to Canada and South Korea, Manoj Joshi, distinguished fellow ORF, Indrani Bakshi, diplomatic editor at the Times of India, and Raj Kamal Rao, MD Rao Advisors. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for joining us on the show today. Indrani Bakshi, let me just begin with your take and an overall view of what's on the table. Are we trying to manage expectations with this statement on the trade deal? Because Trump began by saying there will be a deal, but a little one, maybe not a very big one. And then India says we're not really pushing one. What's going on behind the scenes?
I think the trade deal may not happen during the visit. The negotiations have been left at a stage where they're expected to come back to it later in the year, possibly after the US elections. That would make it early next year at the earliest, unless they get very ambitious and push through negotiations on a trade deal before the elections, which seems a little unlikely. But you never know, because the USTR, Bob Lighthizer, will be in India along with President Trump, and it is possible that they might be able to sort out some of the knotty issues. I was told by people on the Indian side that they had solved a number of the difficult issues between India and the US, and it needed a little bit of a political push at the end. We've been here before, actually, with the nuclear deal. We've been here. So, but it would not be wise on either side to rush through a deal just to provide better optics for the visit. The visit will be full of optics anyway. I think the idea on both sides was it was better to pull back at this point and come back to the negotiations later.
Okay, is this also tied in to some extent to the fact that Trump is anyway in rally mode? Raj Kamal Rao, welcome to the show. Our voice in America. How Trump is in rally mode, so he's excited about this rally at Motera Stadium, even though the people he's addressing are not really the ones voting for him or possibly voting for him, but he's in rally mode. And a deal is important to him because if he gets a chance to push through some items where he can go back to his constituents and say that, hey, I got this for you, in India. Maybe that's what we want to avoid. That's why India is also kind of going slow on pushing for a deal.
Hi, Tamanna. Yes, in fact, tell me when Trump was not in a rally mode. I mean, he's been in a rally mode ever since we have known him in public life. So I think what the Modi government is doing, and Indrani just said optics, I think they're doing everything right. Recall when Trump's first foreign visit as president was to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And you will recall how the kingdom doled out the most luxurious reception ever granted to a foreign leader. You recall that. And after Howdy Modi, which was, I think, a huge victory for Mr. Modi, this Namaste Trump is, I think, time and money well invested, because what Trump likes is large crowds, people lining the route, something historic such as the inauguration of the largest cricket stadium. For Trump, everything has to be the largest. It has to be a superlative. And as long as India keeps him happy that way, then potentially, eventually, there could be a trade deal.
Yeah, in fact, let me get Manoj Joshi in on this. Rajkamal Rao says this will be time and money well spent for India. Is it truly? Because we are talking about Trump in election year and it's kind of a bet right now, isn't it? We don't know what's going to happen next November.
Well, I think very clearly this visit is really about domestic politics in India and domestic politics in the US. And after having gone through the Howdy Modi rally in Houston, I think Mr. Trump felt that he needed to come here because in the coming elections in the US, he wants to get as much of the Indian American vote that he can. And as we know that Gujarati Americans are very significant, both as people who fund election, who give election funding, as well as people who vote. But most of them have been voting for Democrats till now. And I think Mr. Trump is hoping that some of that will change for his election. And I think the Foreign Secretary, I think, made it very clear in the remarks yesterday that this rally seems to be the only real deliverable that is coming out of the visit. I don't think anything else, we should look for anything else in this whole thing.
Okay, Ambassador Prakash, just the rally. Why does it matter to us? I mean, of course, US-India trade relations are sticky, but bilateral relations have been great. There is personal bonhomie between Prime Minister Modi and Donald Trump. But come November, we don't know what's going to happen with the US elections, though many predict that he will be back. Is it sort of a tricky, fine balancing act for us right now?
Well, Tamanna, first of all, I did not know I'll live to see a day when I'll agree with my two good friends, Manoj and Indrani. So, I mean, it's a big day in my life that I agree with both of them, the remarks that they made. That is one. Now, it is not just a rally. It is an investment in a relationship, which is a very important relationship. And when it comes to India-US relationship, let us look at it over a 10 or 20-year period. And I can never forget March 2000 when Bill Clinton came to India. We had, there were sanctions on us, there were issues. One visit of the US president and the world looked at it in a different way. Things started falling in place. That visit happened after 22 years. And since then, every president has been visiting India. Look at the graph of the relationship. There is practically no area where we do not work together. There are differences which are very natural. So yes, certainly, and then look at India's soft power. I don't think there is any country in the world which has that kind of a majestic, rich culture that India has. And the scenes or the pictures that will be captured of President Trump getting a huge welcome, I think during his campaign will be played out. He certainly wants to quote more than 2 million Indian voters who are among the richest, who also contribute liberally. And why not? I mean, the Indian diaspora is playing an important role, but not just that. As you mentioned, there will be many other areas in which there will be forward movement. But more than that, it is, I think, the signal that is going out in an election year. He is paying a standalone visit to India, where any and everything will be discussed, bilateral, regional, and international. And I would still not rule out, last point, I still would not rule out a trade deal. There is a possibility that they are playing down expectations, and the principals will make a big gesture, and this has happened in the past. So I think it's a positive development, and we should welcome the visit.
No, we're welcoming the visit, absolutely. I mean, we're asking about what we're getting out of it, because this is a president who always talks about the deal. He's very deal-oriented, very goal-oriented. Will we have a free trade agreement at the end of it? And what about some of the really, thorny issues that US and India right now face? We need to look at these very important angles as well, even while we cover, the huge crowds and all of that. Helping us do that right now is my colleague Mubina, who's taking us through some of the contentious issues on both sides.
Donald Trump may have dashed any hopes for trade deal between India and the United States. But why exactly is the United States an important trading partner for the country? Let's analyze some of the numbers of what the value of the merchandise is. Over here, you have India's trade with the United States. We've compared the exports versus the imports. And as you'll notice, while there's been a nice upward trajectory from 2015-16 till 2019 when it comes to the exports, similar is the case with the imports as well. It has actually ebbed off a bit in 2019. It may be because, the USB status has been lifted. It also could be because of the overall slowdown in, global growth. That could be a reason. And the trade surplus as well that India has with the United States has come down to just about 12.7 billion US dollars from roughly 16.8 and in fact $19.5 billion that we saw in 2016-17. What is the US's share of India's total merchandise trade? Let's analyze that. Again, it's only been increasing, and that's the reason why the United States is obviously an important trade partner. So it was 9.66% in 2015-16. It ran up to 11.3% in the most recent year, that's 2019-20. But of course, April to December year. Now, there are two key niggling factors. One, GSP. US ended India's preferential trade status under GSP from the 5th of June 2019. So that may partially explain why the export-import figure came down a tad bit. But again, I would attribute that more to the slowdown in global growth. But because of that, India lost preferential trades of almost $5.6 billion. And President Trump said that India had not given equitable access to its own markets. Moving on, the question of India being a developed or a developing country. Now, if you are classified under a developing country, you obviously get certain benefits. But the USTR is classifying India as a developed country, and hence the benefits, which included exporters getting tariff-free access to US, is now gone. The USTR essentially argues that, look, India is a part of G20 and it's contributing almost 0.5% to world trade. So these were some of the niggling factors. Let's see if PM Modi and President Trump are able to hash these issues out.
Well, one of the issues that no one's talking about anymore is the H-1B visas. Let me come back to Indrani Bagchi here, and there was an MEA briefing today by the Ministry of External Affairs where they said this, this might come up. But it does seem, if you look at the entire US-India relationship during Donald Trump's tenure, it does seem that, the US has got its way and sort of moved the red lines. H-1B is no longer on any kind of list of discussions. Usually when we talk about the relationship, they have withdrawn GSP benefits. They have been tariffs and counter tariffs that both countries have put on each other, and Trump's America First has been, the leading sort of philosophy to any kind of conversation he has with any world leader. His constant, talk about Kashmir as and when it suits him is something that irks us. I'm just trying to understand what has been our benefit through all of this, Indrani.
Tamanna, I think I would actually contest this the notion that we should be looking for these rupees and paisa benefits. And it's not a transactional relationship where we are concerned. Now, Trump is a transactional president.
Exactly.
And to a certain extent, he has made the relationship a transactional one. But that does not mean that we have to reciprocate. There are very different reasons for India and the US to be in this relationship. But for us to say that I want to count whether it costs me 100 crore to entertain or to welcome the US president, I don't think we should be looking at it in that way. There is a relationship that we are invested in, And the cost, 100 crore is really not the point of discussion here. It is not even the point of discussion whether we will or we will not have discussions on H-1B visas. Of course, there will be discussions to say to the Americans that, please ease up on the H-1B processes.
Yeah.
The processes have become a little tougher. Indians still take about 70 to 75% of H-1B visas. It's not like we are being denied H-1B visas. We are still the largest recipient of H-1B visas. And the more there is an adverse effect of limelight. The more you focus on it, the more the other side also focuses on it.
Yeah.
And the end is never a good one. It's like the threat of sanctions on India, which we call the CATSA sanctions. If we buy weapons and delivery systems from Russia, we've bought the S-400. The S-400 will be delivered. At some point, the conversation will come up about whether India comes under those sanctions, or with the strength of the relationship be so great at that point that the US then exercises the national security waiver. So we don't know, but we won't get there unless we are both investing in this relationship. Yeah. And please remember that Donald Trump is not the first US president to come to India in an election year.
Yeah.
Bill Clinton also came to India in an election year, although it was his second term. It was not his first term. But the fact is that Modi did a show with Trump in Houston. He's doing another show with Trump in Ahmedabad. Tomorrow, if there is no Democrat candidate yet, but tomorrow if the Democrat candidate, whoever wins the nomination, says that he or she wants to visit India before the elections, I am sure the government will welcome them.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But I think it would be, as I said, it would be, to see what is in it for us.
Yeah.
I mean, the Americans, Trump does think about it that way.
Absolutely.
But that doesn't mean we should reciprocate it all.
Okay.
Because for us, it's a bigger relationship.
No, it's a bigger relationship, no doubt. And in fact, we're showing on our screens all of the American presidents that have come here. Important point from Ambassador Vishnu Prakash about how Bill Clinton's visit changed it. I don't know. Let me come with some more views on this. That should we even ask what's in it for us or not? With a very transactional president, with a very clear-cut, deal-oriented mindset. And India does, at the end of the day, in diplomacy, you do look at what you've walked away from in a negotiating table, don't you, Ambassador Prakash?
Very much so, but it is very important. It's not a one-shot relationship. It's not a one-time relationship.
Yeah.
It's hopefully an enduring relationship. There is bipartisan consensus in both countries to have that relationship. Now let us get down to dollars and cents. In any relationship, there is give and take. At times, one side takes the initiative or the other side takes the initiative. Let us go back to September 2008. When President Bush did the heavy lifting for us, he even called President Hu Jintao. I mean, if we got the NSG waiver, we must agree that it was all due to the US. Now, some of us say, oh, they had X, Y, and Z reasons. Be that as it may, they did the heavy lifting, they got us the waiver. Now, at that time, somebody could have asked, what did a US get out of it? So, what I'm trying to say is that it's a strategic relationship. It's a relationship where there are many moving parts to it, and both sides get to benefit. After all, we are looking at a strategic relationship. And even if there are certain niggles which are very, very natural, even if President Trump is a tariff king or Trump is tariff is Trump, I mean, these are things, passing phases, and we can deal with it quite maturely. Overall, if we look on every aspect, whether, let's talk energy for a moment. Energy is becoming a very important component of the relationship. We are going to, we are importing increasingly larger quantities of energy. Look at the kind of sophisticated defense equipment we are getting. Look at the way we are leveraging the relationship vis-a-vis other countries. So I guess if we look at the totality of the picture, the dollars and cents bit of how much anybody gained or how much anybody did not gain is a small matter. And overall, we are moving ahead in a very positive manner.
All right. I think this is going to be music to the ears of, a lot of people who watch India-US relations from the US as well. If, we don't want to look at the dollars and cents and rupees and pesas. But going forward, Manoj Joshi, it's also about positioning. It's also about positioning when it comes to sticky issues. Do you think that we would want to give this a skip in this visit? Because once again, this is a pre-election visit. Is this more of a goodwill gesture, a return gift for the kind of, huge event Howdy Modi was?
Well, I certainly think that, yes, the actual visit has to do with a kind of thank you gesture for the Howdy Modi thing. Trump likes spectacles. We are obliging him with the spectacle. But yes, there is also, of course, a strategic context. And I think, unfortunately, you see, what I'll say is that both United States and India have a common interest in this strategic part of the relationship with regard to China. The United States sees India as the only country in terms of location, size, and economy which can offer some kind of a balance to China in the Indo-Pacific region. On the other hand, when you look at India, our own military modernization has been delayed by some 2 decades. Our economy is not doing too well. In terms of comprehensive national power, China is well ahead of India.
Yeah.
So we need the United States to balance China. So at the bottom of it all, there is a mutual need of both India and the US, and that's the real cement in that relationship.
Okay, let me get in a point of view from Raj Kamal Rao. Indrani Bagchi is absolutely correct when she's saying that other presidents have also visited India in an election year. In fact, for most US presidents, overseas trips happen in the last year when, they generally relatively have less work to do when they go into lame duck mode. Unlike in India where you kick off sometimes right after winning an election, you go on this whole trips of different countries. It's the reverse in the US. Are we overestimating the capacity of the Indian diaspora and thinking that, Trump really wants to come into this rally because his advisors think it will help him win more votes?
Well, along with the Indian diaspora, we should also talk about a segment of Indians who are not yet American citizens. And I think that is what is missing in this debate. Yeah. So if you think about it, there is a diversion of objectives between the Indian government and NASSCOM on the one side. And we were talking about H-1B just a few minutes ago. And the 850,000 H-1B employees in America already that are waiting for their green cards, and it is taking about 30 or 40 years. So the thing is, it was remarkable that the External Affairs Minister said in Parliament, of all places, in December 2019, that, obviously lobbying for H-1B relaxation, saying that the flow of talent is part of our economic cooperation. Yeah. The thing is that is only, that's a view from the Indian government because they want increased investment into the H-1B program. However, I think what is going to likely happen is that the H-1B visa will probably continue to face headwinds. As Indrani said, we are already 75% of the recipients of the H-1B. The biggest hope for the 850,000 Indians who are already here who don't have a green card is that there is some movement regarding the per country cap on employment-based immigration visas. And remember, Trump's own merit-based immigration plan. So this is one of those areas where there is pressure from multiple American constituencies. So the Indian government, as was already pointed out, doesn't have to do all the heavy lifting. So I think when it comes to the Indian diaspora, that is really where we are going. The Indian American citizens who will likely vote look at this relationship in a very positive manner. But as I said, there is a large group of people who are neither there nor here, and they will be the people, I think, that will benefit from this kind of.
Well, let's not forget, traditionally, Indian Americans vote Democrat. And I don't know if this will really swing the balance. But hey, at the end of the day, we look at what's best for India, which is why we'll continue to ask what's in it for us. And of course, hope that all the money spent on this will be well spent. I want to thank all of you for joining us on the show this evening as we run up to the big Trump visit. Of course, all coverage right here on ET Now and on the India Development Debate over the next couple of days to come. Well, we'll take a very short break on the India Development Debate, but we're coming back with a story nobody is talking about, which we think is very, very important. Did you know that AQI levels in Mumbai in the last 1 week have been worse than Delhi? We all talk about Delhi's pollution levels. What about what's happening in Maximum City? What's going on? We bring you all the details after this break.